So like even with my books, one of my favorites is the 4-Hour Workweek. I've been reading that for as long as it's been out, and I go back to it every year, and it always means something different to me. There's something in there that I take away that's a little different. Same thing with the blueprint. So, once a year, I'm kind of going back through everything and seeing what did I miss or how does this affect us now? That stuff has all been really cool.
Welcome to the WP Elevation Business Podcast. I'm your host, Ray Miladoni, and I'm excited because you're about to meet an elevator. Why is that so exciting? Well, over the years as the marketing manager, I've been getting lots of emails asking what's life like after implementing the blueprint. Is it something that can really dramatically change my life? Well, you're in luck because we're going to meet elevators who have actually walked the walk. They're action takers. They're people who have implemented the learning and followed the process and trusted that it's all going to be okay. Now, you do need to put in the work in order to get the results. But the people you're going to meet in this series are the ones that have taken action and gone through the struggles, the ups and downs of an entrepreneur, and now at the other end, living life and enjoying where they have come and how far they have come. Now, it's hard to share what the community's like, but hopefully you can get a bit of a feel of it through the stories that the elevators share. Unfortunately, the community, you need to be a member of it to kind of get that first-hand feeling. But the community is definitely something in the WP Elevation Blueprint that is really unique and special and is kind of the people that you can lean to when times get tough. And through some of these stories, you'll hear that people do lean on the community when they need that extra support or that extra motivation. So without further ado, let's go meet one of the elevators.
This is the WP Elevation Podcast, helping WordPress consultants elevate.
Hey, this episode of the WP Elevation Podcast is brought to you by WP Elevation. Well, more specifically, it's brought to you by a bunch of our happy customers. See, frankly, I feel a little bit awkward telling you how great WP Elevation is because you're probably not going to believe me because WP Elevation is my baby. It's something that we started over 3 years ago. Of course, now we're a team of coaches and mentors, and we have hundreds, and by the time you're listening to this, probably thousands of members all over the world. But it still really is something that I'm very passionate about. And of course, if you join WP Elevation, we make revenue and we make profit. So it's a little bit awkward if I tell you how great it is because you probably think I'm just trying to sell you on it. And partially I am because I know how beneficial the program is. So what I'd love to do instead is just introduce you to some of our customers. So if you go to wpelevation.com/thepodcast, all one word, you'll be able to hear some of those stories from our customers and hear for yourself how WP Elevation has impacted their business and changed their lives. I hope you enjoy that and I hope you check it out at some point. Right now, let's get back to the podcast.
Hi, Bret, and welcome to the WP Elevation Business Podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Share with our listeners who you are and what your business is all about.
Okay. My name is Bret Phillips. I work with a digital marketing agency called Sideways 8. We're here in Atlanta, Georgia, United States. We run the gamut of all digital marketing things. Websites is probably the core of our business, but we're also doing the auxiliary stuff with social media, search engine optimization, pay-per-click stuff, and the occasional print marketing collateral for some of our clients if they need it. A lot of strategy and branding, logo design, pretty much everything at this point.
Yeah, excellent. And was your business always offering all those services or have you widened that as you got better at each service?
So I actually have an interesting story. When I started, I thought for sure I could do everything. So I called myself the one-man shop that did all those things. Quickly found out that I was not the expert at most of them. And I found myself getting heavy into WordPress development because my background is kind of in code and IT area, kind of a nerd brain. I ended up hiring a couple of developers and over a few years built a small company doing that, which I then merged with Sideways 8 about a year and a half ago, who is a little bit larger of an agency that then offers everything. So I've kind of gone from trying to do everything to just doing one specific thing to now trying to do everything again with a bigger team.
Excellent. And how has what was life like before you joined the WP Elevation program?
It was hard. That was in the thick of the business at the time was called Web Devils, and that was the WordPress development only. I didn't have very much recurring revenue. I was constantly chasing after projects. I was not valuing the time and effort that I was putting into these projects very well at all. And I definitely wasn't making enough money. I was making just enough money to pay my staff and pay make ends meet. And for staff, it was really just contractors. It wasn't any actual employees.
Yeah, love that. So what were you actually looking for? Like, how did you come across the program?
I've always been kind of into I don't want to call it self-help. That seems kind of hokey, but self-enhancement, reading those types of books and constantly in business books and everything, business courses. I did different things around social media and SEO kind of online courses. And at some point, I think I must have been Facebook advertised to or advertised somewhere. And it was when WP Elevation did their like one round of you get in for $1 and then it goes to a monthly payment instead of paying all at once. And so I was going to be that guy that dove in for $1, downloaded everything and exited. And I've been on board since then. That was like 3 or 4 years now.
Excellent. It was working.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so what hooked you in? Like, obviously you had that intention of kind of coming in, get as much as you could, and then leave. What kind of made you stay?
I think it was a combination of things. So obviously the education was really helpful because I'm a big processes person. I really enjoy having like a tangible set of steps to take. And so while the blueprint at that time was a little bit of a hodgepodge of a lot of things, and it's since come a long way, it was still a starting point for me to be like, okay, when somebody hits me up, this is what I should say. When I land a project, this is how I should start to onboard it, so that if I followed it one step at a time, things were going to go smoothly. And I happened to have an opportunity with a company like right when I started to where like, I sent them the bid, which was 3 times higher than I would have normally charged, which was actually appropriate for their company. I did the anti-follow-up. We landed the job, and I just like one step at a time worked through the blueprint and ended up with building a great site, making a good bit of profit. And I was like, this stuff actually works. So after I made it all the way through the blueprint, the community is really what has kept me around. I don't even think we had the Facebook group yet. It was just the forums still, but it was anytime I had a question or wanted to bounce an idea around, there was a place for me to go where there's other people like me that aren't just my like close friends here that don't really even know what we're doing. Like everybody in the group really is living the same kind of life. So that is definitely what has kept me around. But seeing it in action through that very first project and watching myself just take the step up and, triple my price basically, and actually land the job and do a good job of it and have the resource, having the capital from that project to manage it better and just do a better job. I was really like, all right, this is it. This is the light bulb moment.
Yeah, love that. And has that snowballed? Has that just increased your trust in the process and being able
absolutely.
to? Yeah. And so what's that snowball life? What's life like now?
Oh man. So it's a lot better. One thing that's a lot better is that I have a full team of people that are good at their different things. As a business owner, trying to do everything is really difficult. Everybody's said that and everybody knows it that's tried to do that. But, I don't like doing accounting. It's not really my thing. I enjoy numbers, don't like accounting. I don't like a lot of the admin stuff. There's all these areas that I was having to do things that was really, I won't say annoying, but it's like, it didn't make me feel empowered. It was like, oh, I have to do these things all the time. So to get to the team though, I was able to, build a little bit of recurring revenue, get to a point where I thought either I need to start hiring some folks or I need to, do something else. And I was able to approach a company that I was friends with some revenue and say, look, I would like to bring this over. I'd like to be a part of the team. And it gave me a little bit more of a stake in the team. And then that has kind of led into really diving into this company and making a lot of changes, having a voice, being able to follow a lot of or implement a lot of the blueprint, and which has taken that business to kind of the next level itself too. So it's kind of it helped me snowball mine into a position where I had something to offer to another company. And then that has helped me now help this company really start to do better as well. I mean, obviously I can't do any of this stuff without our team, but to have the time and to really be able to focus and say, all right, I want to work on this part of the business right now, go back to the blueprint, kind of review everything, and then bring that and implement it into the business. It's been crazy.
Yeah.
Prices have gone up. Our processes are much tighter. And it's a positive experience all around.
Yeah, I love that. And you've mentioned the word implement a lot. And this is one of the things that most people get stuck on when they go through a program. They feel like they need to implement everything overnight. Were you one of those action takers that implemented everything really quickly, or is it still an evolving journey?
I probably would have been. Like, if I would have had WP Elevation when I started my business, I would have followed it to the T from the jump. But because I was already several years in and we had momentum, it's hard for me and I was doing everything besides like the actual code. It's hard for me to implement right away. So it was very much all right, well, like I said, I got an opportunity in to start at the beginning. It's like, all right, here's my first lead since I've learned about how to handle leads better. Let's start there and then just slowly kind of bring it in. And then honestly, so like even with my books, one of my favorites is the 4-Hour Work Week. I've been reading that for as long as it's been out, and I go back to it every year, and it always means something different to me. There's something in there that I take away that's a little different. Same thing with the blueprint. So, once a year, I'm kind of going back through everything and seeing what did I miss or how does this affect us now? That stuff has all been really cool. That has been very helpful. And I just implement one little thing at a time and really just try to season to taste for what works for our company, and slowly just kind of refine all the processes.
Yeah, perfect. And I think that's really important too, is that the world of the internet is changing very fast and quickly. And, the same as when you rewatch a movie and the way that you read the books, you get a different part of it. And you're like, I don't remember that scene. I don't remember that tip. And the blueprint is exactly the same. And we're also evolving as well and changing different modules and getting up with the times. Like page builders lately have exploded. What does that mean for the world of web and so forth? So it is definitely good to keep the finger on the pulse. And we have new students that are coming into the intakes as well and classes. So that adds a new, fresh kind of layer and different experience. And so forth. But when you were going through the blueprint yourself, what was something that was a kind of like an aha moment that really stood out that you were just like kind of blown away with?
There's just so much, really. Each different module has its own takeaway. I think one of the first ones for me was the anti-follow-up. And it's funny because I ended up in a video about that. But it was something that I never really thought about, because I was always the guy to be like, all right, I'm going to send you a proposal as soon as I can. And then I'm going to give you like 3 or 4 days and I'll be like, hey man, did you read that? Hey, have you seen this yet? Instead of being like, how can I add some simple value to somebody and just remind them that I'm here and not look super desperate about trying to get the project, even though I was at the time. That was like the first big one where I was like, okay, that totally makes sense. And since then, I've never treated that the same, not even just with proposals, but like just talking to people before a proposal. It's just like, how can I be valuable to them so that they remember that I'm here? And that way, when it comes time to actually give them the proposal, I've already got, some good vibes with them. They already trust me a little bit more. That was definitely one of them. Other than that, like I said, every module, there's always something. I could probably look at each different one and come up with one, but that was the big one for me.
That's good. And I think it is a really big game changer as well, because there is that tendency to be like, the power is in the follow-up. And while communication is still continued, like the anti-follow-up is not about not sending anything. It's about sending valuable information and reminding people that you're still there, but you're not talking about, give me your money. Are you going to accept that post? And where are we at with this proposal? Has your team reviewed this proposal? And it comes across very desperate, and it's a completely different mindset and almost off-putting. But we're always taught in business that, it takes 4 or 5 follow-ups before you win the deal, but it comes across the wrong way when you could just be really super helpful. And so that blows a lot of people's minds, because they're like, what? I'm not talking about the proposal. And it is a quite interesting one for that. And the whole fact that it's kind of goes against the grain, it's good because, in WordPress, we're a little bit rebellish.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and, so one other thing, you asked me earlier, kind of what kept me involved in the in the thing is, and one of the big things for me is Troy. I think that I connected with him as a person. Yeah, because he kind of thinks a lot of the way that I think, and the way he would say stuff. I think it may be a little bit brash for some people, but for me, it's like right up my alley. So that was one thing that came across really nice. And in that same way, the anti-follow-up, like the sales piece to me is really what I'm interested in now. So the role I play with Sideways 8 is kind of the inside sales and marketing. work. So when a project comes in and they're like, hey, I want to do a website, they send it to me and I've got to scope it out and price it out and all of that. And so the anti-follow-up kind of falls right in that world. There's other stuff in there about, doing the delivery and kind of putting together prototypes and all the stuff that's really helpful that may be really great for other people. But I think that's why I connected with the anti-follow-up so much, is I really enjoy that part.
Yeah. And I want to touch on the community as well, because you keep mentioning about how that was what kind of kept you around, but also the fact Troy's part of the community. And obviously, we spend a lot of time as a company in our private Facebook group, and it's hard because unless you're in the program, we can't really give you a sneak peek to what it's like in there. So what's it like in the community from your point of view?
It's So I think the WordPress space in general is a really positive environment.
Absolutely.
I've never been, the reason I even joined up with WordPress, I went to one 2011. It was in Savannah, Georgia. It's my very first one. I was just starting to dabble with the platform. And it was so welcoming and so inviting. And there was people that have been doing it for a while that were top tier all the way down to noobs like me. And it was totally fine to talk and ask questions and really just be a part of it. And nobody was snobby about it and nobody was off-putting and everybody was very welcoming. I think that our community through WP Elevation is very much the same way. Everybody wants to see everybody else win. And you want to help them out at the same time too. So whether it's helping them out with a project that you're getting paid for or just trying to give some advice or telling them something that you learned, I think that part is really huge. And it is hard to show that without actually being in the group, especially if you're just getting started and you may not know much about the environment of what we do as, marketing people and website developers and all that. I already was in the space, so I think I may have a different appreciation for it, but I definitely see a lot of people coming in who are like, I think I want to get involved in this world. Let me start here now that there's a place to start, but they may not have any experience in the space. So that to me, it was much more valuable, but even to start that way would be super valuable.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's a really good point in regards to, it doesn't matter what level you are in the WordPress space, the community always embraces you. And in the community, our personal community, private Facebook group, it does really feel like family. Everyone shares things. And we've had heaps of posts where it's like, wow, like people haven't even shared that with their actual immediate family, and there's no judgment and it can be really real. And then everyone kind of gets it. And we get kind of closer as a community. But it's really interesting too, because in the outside world, your competition is a bad thing and you're meant to be crushing competition, where here we really get that if the tide rises, all boats, kind of rise together, and we lift in that quality of what WordPress development and consulting means.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And there's so much work out there for, we're fortunate to be in a line of business that everybody needs it. Every single business needs what we do. And there's so much business out there for every different level of person, and kind of I don't want to say easy path of growth, but there's a path of growth. So you can come in, you could do the $500 website, but there's a market for that if that's you. Or to the $50,000 website if there's a market for that if it's you. And one thing that's been really great with the community is we've actually been able to bring on some talent that we found from the group. Just people that I've met through WP Elevation, and I post up a thing like, hey, we need a little bit of help right now. Is anybody looking for some work?
Yep.
I already trust that they know the process. They know how to talk to people. They're going to be good people. I think there was one person one time in the group that was kind of being an ass, and they were gone quick. But other than that, everybody's been super awesome. And then just having that pool of resources to pull from is really great. And I've gotten lucky. I've gotten to meet a lot of the people as well. I think the first time I really met everybody was at a mastermind in Philadelphia for WordCamp US.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to WordCamp US. I got to stay with a couple of them, and we've kept in touch since then. Did another mastermind at one point and met some more new people. And then now at WordCamps all over that I go to, I see people that I know and get to keep up with, and they're my friends now, which is really great because they're, and it's more than just they're business friends for sure, but there's more than that. People actually care. They actually remember who you are, what you're about, ask about family and friends and all that stuff, how your business is going. It's just a really genuine community, and that's hard to find, especially in business.
Yeah. And it's all really, to the hard work of the team here, because we are very big on our values and and like what you said, if there's a bit of bad attitude, it's not very long until that gets filtered out, because we know who our avatar is and who we want to have in the community, because there's no tolerance for toxic and negativity and so forth. It's all about being real and authentic, and we don't even have to try hard. Like people know when they're not a right fit, and that's why we're really happy that if people understand that, it's like, that's great, see you later, because we really want to protect the community that we have created and not fill it up with tens of thousands of people who are just all off on different paths. And so we're very, very protective of that, and there's a process internally of why that group is to the quality that you explain. Now, this wouldn't be a WordPress podcast if we didn't talk about some shiny objects or tools. So during your process of the WP Elevation Blueprint, what was like a cool tool that you discovered that helped you grow your business?
Through the WP Elevation group?
Oh, whatever, or whatever.
So the one that I would like to talk about the most is probably the Beaver Builder Suite. That has been hugely impactful for us as a company. And then are you familiar with the 48 and 48 program that we've done? I don't know if it maybe has seeped out into there, but essentially we build 48 websites in 48 hours for 48 nonprofits.
Wow.
It's a huge task. And it's a nonprofit that one of the co-founders of Sideways 8 started. Our whole team stays involved, but in order to pull this thing off, we have to work really fast and really smart. And before the page builders came, it was a huge challenge to do that. And there's no way you could have somebody that had little experience really try to dive into that. But with that platform, and this part gets confusing, but we, in our business, not just with 48 and 48, but in our business, we use Beaver Builder Theme, Beaver Builder Themer, the Beaver Builder Pro plugin, and then there's like a couple of other add-on packs. And with those, you can literally do so much without having to write any code at all and design a really fantastic, fully responsive website so easy. To me, that has changed the game 100% as far as how the WordPress environment's going. And it's obvious because of the way that the Gutenberg thing is coming about. It's like, okay, so this is really making life easier for people to build websites. They're starting with how do we make sure that they can build the content out much nicer, but it's going to grow to be the same idea where you're building a fully functional website with a drag and drop modules available and all that. So those to me have been the most powerful tools that I've used since I started doing it. And it literally changed the process flow, how quickly we can get stuff done, the type of people that we can have working on different projects and all that. Like our developers now are working on super custom API integrations or business process automation, as opposed to just taking an image file and slicing it up and then making that into a website. Like that's great that they can do that, but they're so much more useful in another capacity. And these page builder tools give us just a much easier time to build those things out.
Yeah, and I think you're 100% right with the whole easeability. And what's happening now is that new people are coming into the market and going, well, maybe I can build websites, and the drag and drop editors definitely opens up that door for new people to come in and build websites, but also for website owners to manage their own content and help them through custom changes and things like that. They feel more comfortable as opposed to go into some of these more rigid page website hosted services with monthly fees and so forth. But you're right with the page builders, and that's what we're starting to see as well, is that there's people that are now exploring becoming a WordPress consultant as a side hustle or a business opportunity, or a mumpreneur, someone who's staying at home going, I could probably build a website in my spare time while the kids are sleeping or school runs and things like that. And that kind of door's opening to this new world of freelancers who are looking for a business opportunity, but they don't know what they want to do. And building websites is definitely something that they can do without having to write code and understand all that advanced stuff. But there comes a time where they identify and go, well, this project's outside of my scope. Now let me partner with someone,
Yeah. It's at this point, it's hard to find something that's outside the scope of what those modules allow you to do. It's just so crazy. Blows my mind.
And the fact that they're so innovative as well, like, it seems like the page builders, whenever there's a gap, someone's filling it. Someone's building add-ons for it, and then it goes into core. And that's what I kind of love about the WordPress community, is that everyone's kind of adding value everywhere, and then it all becomes part of core. And,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. And you mentioned that you've been to a couple of masterminds and you got to meet some of the elevators in person. What was the mastermind about for you? Why were you attending?
I think I wanted to get a closer deep dive with some of the people that were super serious about it. I was at a point where, like, I had been through the blueprint and I had a thing going. Actually, the first one I went to was right after I had merged with Sideways 8. It was like right in the transition. I merged and I have been planning to go to this mastermind. So for me, it was like, all right, so I come to the mastermind and I say, here's like everything that's a mess in the company right now, but here's the one specific goal that I have. Help me figure this out. And it was like just a intensive, you know what I mean? It wasn't like a Facebook post of 17 different people saying, I do it this way, I do it this way. It was 17 people all working together to come up with one solution to really, make that happen. So that for me that's what I was expecting out of it. And that's what I got out of it. And it was awesome. But I also ended up getting some friendships out of it. And just, one of the things that Troy says when you get in there, you're here to receive, but like you're also here to give. And if you just sit there and you just take and take and take, and everybody in the room just takes and takes, there's nothing left to like give back out. But if everybody gets together and is really just hyper focused on you all at one time individually, everybody walks out of there a winner. And it's just really crazy. That was, I think the big thing though, what I was looking for was that mastermind of like, here's the business that I'm in now. There's this whole world of stuff that I haven't been doing because we've just been doing development. How do I get to the top of this pile of stuff that needs to get figured out?
Love that. And you're quite right in regards to the masterminds. It's a much more niche group, and you basically have, we cap them off of maybe around about 20, but in your case, there may have been 17. And you've got 17 plus Troy people working, or 16 plus Troy, and you working on your business. And it's great how that, the energy in the room kind of elevates, and people leave those masterminds with so much clarity, because the reason why we did the masterminds is because people got to the end of the blueprint, they've implemented some parts, and they're like, now what? I want more, or my business is grown and I need something, that's the next level. And we've got a lot of different masterminds coming up in the near future, and Troy's just launched his Mavericks Club as well, which is the high end.
I was this close. I was that close.
Yeah. So that the first group's going through, and it's very exciting, and some of the projects we're working on behind the scenes, and it's all about just holding hands and elevating people through different journeys of their business. Bret, I want to thank you for coming on to the podcast. It's been absolutely great with the information that you've shared. I've loved how much of an action taker you are. You're really involved in the community, and you mentioned it before, but you give a lot, and you're partaking in the masterminds. You go into WordCamp, you're meeting the elevators, and it's a true testament that you get what you put in. Some people want the secret pill. They join the program and go, solve my business tomorrow. I'm like, it doesn't work that way.
No.
And so
you got to do the work. Got to put in the work. Got to show up. You got to put in the work. But it works. You pop out the other end, and you've got it.
Yeah, trust the process. And, it's proven. We've had hundreds of thousands of people through the program and hundreds of success stories. And this is why I love meeting the elevators like this and sharing that with the wider community. Bret, how can people get a hold of you, and who's your ideal client if they're listening and they want to work with you? Who is that?
Oh, man.
How do they do it?
So easiest way is through sideways8.com, sideways the word and 8 the number.com. We're really easy to find. And the customers we're kind of looking at right now, we've got a mid-level nonprofit that we're going after. We do really great in that space. And it's just a market that they essentially have a marketing budget. They don't have a marketing team. We're super familiar with the type of work that they need to do and how to reach their audience. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. But I'm open to anything, anytime, and creative projects for our developers because they itch to do something that's outside of the normal Stripe API integration.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much. All those links, including the 48 in 48, I think it is, which we do know about the program. We see it pop up. It's once a year. Yeah,
We're actually, so it's once a year per city. This year we're doing 7 cities.
Wow.
And next year we're going to try to do even more. The big goal is 48 of these around the world in the same weekend in like 2025 or something.
Wow, that's great. Well, we'll put all those links in the show notes. And if you're someone who can get behind that, then I'm sure you can reach out. As always, all the links will be at wpelevation.com/podcast. Find the episode and click all the links, and also watch the video version of the podcast, which is way more engaging than just the audio.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. Well, Bret, thanks very much for coming on to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Until next time, go elevate. Well, I hope you enjoyed this podcast as much as I did making it. I always love meeting our elevators and hearing their stories, and you can just feel it in their voice that they're so excited about what life is like now. If you want to know more about the WP Elevation Business Blueprint Program, then head over to wpelevation.com. And while you're there, check out the podcast and be sure to subscribe and leave us a review at wpelevation.com/iTunes. That's really a way that we know and letting everyone else know what the WP Elevation Business Podcast is all about. The more that we can share this podcast with others, the more that the entire industry can kind of rise and reach new levels. Well, until the next episode, go elevate.